No. All right, there we go. You know, I was listening to this YouTube channel this morning, right? And this YouTube channel was, I think it's called Psycrypt, Psychript, I believe. But you'll be able to find it because you just it has basically MGTOW information, right? And I mean, MGTOW is a problem. MGTOW is a huge fucking problem. Um, because if you listen to the arguments of MGTOW, I mean, it's just very scientific. You know, this is all. There's no judgment involved. It's not about good versus evil. It's just observation, like a scientist would do. So if you had to observe mankind, males and females, on an observational level, what would you say? Right, and so it's like MGTOW is very devastating to this idea that women are creatures of love. Um, and you've got different MGTOW people out there, like this Psycrypt uh, person doesn't blame the women at all. There's no judgment against the women in his analysis. Or so he says, right? He might just be trying to, like, if you blame the women, then you might get canceled, right? But you know, I think I believe him, and he's not blaming the women at all. He's just saying, hey, these, you know, hypergamy and gaslighting and domination and control, and this is all just observational facts. Um, and I wanted to address that because it's a problem. It's a problem with a paradigm shift of identity. Um, I mean, it's like if you look at some of the data that he presents, this data comes from just watch some of his stuff. If you look at some of the data that he's just presenting historical data and trying to disinterestedly describe that data, right? Now, the data is devastating, but one of the things that pops out within all this data is something that's very dystopian. And what's dystopian is that what pops out in all this data is that men tend to be creatures of love, right? That's how they get hurt, right? Because they're creatures of love and they want to love, and it's the women that are playing all these games, right? Um, and to me, this was when I started listening to the MGTOW stuff, it was like, damn, like I had already had my own experiences with my own life, and it was just like, damn, this is like resonating like shit. But to me, I guess one of the comforts to me was, I like Torah, and there's this line in the Torah that, one day love will grow cold, right? And that's a perception that most people have of women is that they're creatures of love. Um, and so it's like, hey, maybe we're living through this time. But at the same time, I'm very rational and logical, and it's like at the same time, maybe not. Maybe love is just a manipulation tactic, right? Um, and there's no such thing. We're all just biological creatures, and meaning is and substance are inventions of our imagination. Maybe, but like this MGTOW shit's a problem, in that respect. I consider myself MGTOW. MGTOW for life, right? But yeah, no, it's a problem, but like when I started learning all this stuff, it's just very shocking. It's just very jarring. Like when I was a kid, I used to love romance stories, although I never would want to admit it. 'Cause I was a manly little child. But it's just very. I mean, you could say nihilistic, definitely. Actually, you could definitely say it's nihilistic, right? There's no such thing as love, right? It's like right now, no woman wants me because I'm poor as hell, right? This is my little bachelor pad, I don't even have control over most of this shit. I could probably be cleaner, but whatever. It would still be like fucking whatever. I wouldn't have these chairs in here. Chairs hurt your knees. Men in first world countries have knee problems. Men in third world countries who don't have chairs do not have knee problems, right? When you sit on a chair, I think I know what's going on is that blood is pooling at your, knees, and it's just unhealthy. But I think it's that right underneath your thigh, right underneath your thigh, it hits underneath your thigh, hits the end of the chair, and it just starts to pinch off the blood vessel. But I don't know. Like I think I would want blankets and bean bags and just sit Indian and or Roman style, But whatever. Yeah, no, I think Tao's a problem. Because like this Psycrypt guy, he didn't have any moral judgments on it. Or bitterness. Like a lot of the feminists would just say MGTOW people are bitter, so maybe some of them are. But this one guy he accepted it, He's like, hey, this is the way it is. There's, these women, they're just trying to survive, and they're just trying to protect their children, right? Um, it's just how it is, right? So you accept it, move on, and quote unquote be happier, right? Although you have to sacrifice this idea of love, right? um, but to like for me, when I first started learning, it was a problem. It was just like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. It's like men are more like lambs and women are more like wolves. Um, if you women out there want a good sex partner, then you want someone who has a relaxed nervous system. But if you want to control your man, then you got to jar that nervous system, and so you reap what you sow. And we're living in a society where cursed men are blessed. If you're a charming man that likes to talk, then you're going to be a boss. And so there's all these. You can sleep with someone else's wife, and nothing's going to happen to you. There's going to be no consequences. So a lot of wicked men are living with just very relaxed nervous systems. The countenance is up, while the countenance of the good men is down. This is what the Book of Enoch talks about. My Justice Society has the good men, their countenance is up, and these same men who are great at like charming and talking, in this false tyrannical society, would be helpless in a free society, right? Because a lot of times like these men are just, they have no empathy, even though they pretend, hey baby girl, what's up? I love you, and it's like they have no concept of love. But they can do whatever they want without consequence. And so that's one of the things that I argue is that there is a legal problem. There is totally a legal problem. Marriage is a contract. If you want to sleep around with whoever, then don't get married. But once you get married, you're entering into a contract. So we're a contract society, but we're not a contract society when it comes to marriage, right? With these no-fault divorces. Because if you sleep with someone else, you break the contract. If you break the contract, then you get nothing. Shit, because you broke the contract, right? So I think there's I wasn't even talking about this legal stuff. It just started coming up because I'm a priest of Zoroaster. Hell fucking yeah. Teresa just tries to hide the alcohol from me. There it is. Anyways, man, I've had a fucking ear infection the past 2 days. So I haven't made anything. Oh, I was gonna quit alcohol and I was gonna get healthy, but then that ear infection fucking hit. Damn, and I don't know. I've been in pain the past few days, so I'm drinking today. I couldn't go cold turkey. I might die. I don't think I would, but damn, it would be. Yeah, no. Withdrawal would be hard. Oh man, but But no, I think that's right. It's like, the like this. I think it was a Cycrypt guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But he was talking about the morning after laws from Germany. Fucking Germans. They have the worst fucking laws. Um, but also some good laws too. Uh, Otherwise, they wouldn't be as powerful as they were. But like those fucking inheritance laws and these morning after laws, damn, they really fucked those Germans up. But that would be my argument. It's like, the laws are really gonna either strengthen or weaken a tribe. And by it, bad laws will weaken a tribe, and good laws will strengthen a tribe. And yet, right now I'm talking in the abstract. It's like there are so many different laws out there, and it's like some of them could be good, some of them could be bad. And it's like I'm a story writer, and it's like societies are really interesting in that way. Because you change around this law or that law, and you're going to have a completely different society. It's fascinating. But anyways, no, but yeah, no, I think laws are going to impact behavior, right? And so one of the things that I want to talk about with this MGTOW community, I've said it before in a few of the videos, but I don't know, I just want to make another video on it. And it's this whole idea of nature versus nurture. I think Moses wanted to treat women with respect. I think he did. He was against this idea of the taskmaster, like this word taskmaster. It's like he's against this idea of a taskmaster, and he praises a man who's his own taskmaster, right? And it would be the same with women. He praises a woman who's her own taskmaster. And traditionally, men and women have worked together. Modern industrial society is what's created this woman at the home and the men at the workplace. Like that's a modern thing and has nothing to do with any of our ancestors, except for maybe some of whom who lived in Mesopotamia. But or not Mesopotamia, Phoenicia, right? They all got to go to the factory and worship Baal, right? Or worship any of these Mesopotamian gods, or not Phoenician gods. Phoenician gods, different than the Mesopotamian gods. But whatever. Like, like one thing I would do is I would point out to MGTOW, and I think MGTOW needs to start discussing it. But I would point out to MGTOW the Lamentations of Ur, right? And the Lamentations of Ur has a direct biblical connection, and we're talking Moses connection, so we're talking the beginning of the Bible. And if you look at this, like again, all MGTOW people look at this Lamentations of Ur, right? Who needs a fucking chaser? Chasers are for fucking Gen Zers. And millennials. Anyways, so but yeah, no, I'd tell all MGTOW people, look at this Lamentations of Ur, because I think it's just like fucking powerful. OM fucking G. Totally fucking powerful, because in this Lamentations of Ur, you have Ur being destroyed by a foreign army. The cities are being conquered and destroyed, and the people are being taken away into slavery. And like the men are being killed and the women are being taken off. And but you have within this text these women of Ur, right? And you have two totally different images of a woman within this text, right? Like, this is some powerful shit. You have two totally different images of a woman within these texts. And on the one hand, you have the image of the women of Ur, right? And these women of Ur are complaining against their goddess, the goddess of Ur, right? They're complaining against this goddess of Ur, and but like when you look at them, it's like these women of Ur, they're overwhelmed. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. I like MGTOW. Do you hear that? Like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Right? And what's the other image of a woman that you see within this text? The other image of a woman that you see within this text is the goddess of Ur herself. And she is standing in the battlefield, dressed up in battle gear, besieging her own cities and attacking her own cities. Right? And it's never said, but it's obvious that the goddess of Ur is attacking her own cities because the women of Ur are not after her own image. And this goddess of Ur is lamenting the fact that she has to destroy her own cities and become, which is like one of the most beautiful lines in poetry, I think. This goddess of Ur is lamenting that she's a ghost within her own lands. And she's going to be a ghost within her. I think there's even a prophecy in there. There's, like, she's going to come to the forefront one of these days and be worshipped again within the lands of Ur. It's like this woman was fighting. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was a badass bitch, and she was fighting. And but if we look at the MGTOW analysis of women, we see the women of Ur, right? And I think it's all just extremely simple, right? And the simplicity is this. The simplicity is that the Torah says, if you spare the rod, you spoil a child. And yet, every fucking stupid Jew and every stupid Christian and every stupid Muslim and every stupid person who agrees with this statement, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Everyone who agrees with this statement only infers this statement to their sons. They do not infer this statement to their daughters. And so again, this is this argument of nature versus nurture. And so if you treat your daughter like this princess that has no consequences for her actions, then they will be like the women of Ur. But if you treat your daughter with respect, in the same way you treat your son with respect, then your daughter will be more like the goddess of Ur. And so again, I think like all of the data, like if you want to look this scientifically, like I listen to this Psycrypt guy and he's talking about the plague, he's talking about the Chernobyl, he's talking about the Great Depression. Like the data shows that women are like the women of Ur, right? But all of this data is produced in an environment which is all the same all around the world. All of these Gentiles treat their daughters like princesses, except for the Sumerians who wrote this Lamentations of Ur. right? So the Sumerians who wrote this Lamentations of Ur thought that they should respect their daughters, right? And what do we see in the early texts of Moses? In the early texts of Moses, Abraham was like, hey, if you want a good woman, you go to Ur. You go to Ur to get a fucking good woman. Right? So I think this Lamentations of Ur is directly connected to Moses. I think it's obvious. Right? Because if you look at Sarah, you know, Abraham and Sarah were a team, and they were going into different cities in the Mesopotamia. And they were judging those peoples. Like, they were a team. She was sleeping with all these men and gathering so much information. Not only with what the man said, but she's able to walk around his home and see all of his treasures. And they go in and they talk, and Abraham and Sarah are warriors. They are fucking warriors, going out and they're sharing the information with each other. And Sarah is a fucking warrior that's going out helping Abraham to shepherd other men's tribes. That's what we see with I think this Lamentations of Ur stuff. And again, like, respect MGTOW. Like, maybe there is no such thing as an afterlife or a soul, maybe you're right, and you're obviously right, because that's what the data shows, right? But this is data that is based upon a certain treatment of women that is going to result, you reap what you sow. And if you do not spare the rod, you will spoil the child.